or employees of any public body, and 2.2-37 A5, discussion concerning prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry in the Mineral and Green Springs District where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's intent in locating or expanding its facilities in the community, and in accordance with 2.2-3711A7, consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body, in accordance with 2.2-3711A8, consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. Sir.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I move we go back into open session.
Been properly moved and second that we go back into open session. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now back into open session. I will now poll members to certify that to the best of your knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and is identified in the motion for which closed meeting was convened were discussed and considered by the board. If any member believes that the board varied from the purposes stated for the closed meeting, please state so and the reason prior to casting a vote. Mr. McCotter?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Woodward?
Yes.
We're now back into open session. I'd like to welcome you to the Monday, November 4th, 2024 meeting of the Louisa County Board of Supervisors, whether you're here in the public meeting room or joining us online. We will start this evening's meeting, as we do with every meeting, with the invocation, which will be by Mr. McCotter tonight, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd like to join us, please stand.
Let us pray. Father, I humbly ask for your blessing on tonight's meeting. Help us walk in your light and give us the courage, humility, and strength to show others that light as we serve Louisa County with servant hearts. In your Son's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is the adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move item 7, new business action items, resolution to consider the Thomas Jefferson Plan District Commission legislative program presented by David Blood up to between recognitions in the consent agenda.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we adopt the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is the approval of the minutes.
So move.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded we approve the minutes from our regular meeting and our legislative workshop. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is the approval of the bills.
So move.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we approve the bills. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is the approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, if I could have your attention for one moment, please. There's a typo on item number 5 in the staff report, which is to approve and award a contract for the firefighting EMS and search and rescue vessel. It's just in the staff report and the recommendation, and it was a holdover from a prior copy of a staff report that references maintenance rather than the actual purchase of the vessel. The resolution itself is fine, but I just want to draw that to your attention in the staff report. No corrections to the resolution are necessary. Thank you.
Thank you.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We will now hear a resolution to consider the 2025 Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission Legislative Program. Mr. Blunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Thank you for moving me up on the agenda. And before I get started, I just wanted to publicly thank a couple of your staff members, Mr. Goodwin and Mr. Wade, who very graciously gave of their time last month and led members of the TJPDC staff on a tour of Louisa County. We are looking to provide our staff with an opportunity to get out into the member governments to to see and hear and experience the counties, and Louisa County was our first stop. So we had a great tour, made a number of stops along the way, a lot of good information that was passed along to us on the bus ride. And again, just wanted to publicly thank them, and so that you were aware of the good work that they did with us that day. I am here this evening to present the Regional Legislative Program, the draft program for 2025 for your approval. As I noted in the memo that was included in your packet, there are three priorities for the upcoming General Assembly session. They're continuations of the three from the 2024 program. First is public education funding. It's a position that endorses realistic levels of state funding for K-12 education. We're going to expect to see some more efforts by the General Assembly, I think, this coming session to address some of the JLARC recommendations from that 2023 report on K-12 funding. So we tweaked some of the language as a result in that priority statement. The second priority has to do with budgets and funding. This is a perennial position that we've had in the program. It's kind of an all-encompassing. We support increased state aid for state programs that are carried out at the local level. We don't want to see unfunded or underfunded mandates. We don't want you to take away local revenue authorities. No changes are recommended to this position for this coming year. And then the final priority has to do with land use and growth management. You certainly are aware of a number of pieces of legislation that we saw during the 2024 session that would have usurped or chipped away or limited or restricted local government authority in this area. I think we're going to continue to see those types of proposals coming again in 2025. I did want to point out one of the specific changes deals with an issue that you all have been dealing with as well, concerning energy facilities. And that new language that we've put in says that we support local authority to address siting and other impacts associated with utility scale installation of clean energy resources. And we support state funding and technical assistance that addresses the planning, production, transmission, and deployment of new resources. So trying to make it clear the local authority is critical with regard to those energy facilities. The remainder of the legislative program is the section on legislative positions. It really focuses in on recommendations and positions in some other areas outside of the priorities that are of concern to local government. I will point out that you do have in your packet a page that lists some of those specific changes. I will point out one in the environmental and water quality section on page 5 in the first bullet. The draft added some specific support for state assistance in addressing HABs at the lake as a result of some communication with Mr. McCotter and Mr. Goodwin today. Certainly with the board's concurrence, we can add that, expand that position to also include hydrilla treatment and buoy maintenance, which was part of your local priorities that you adopted several weeks ago. So, Mr. Chairman, that is all I wanted to present to you. I'm happy to take any questions or any suggestions that you may have for the program. I am, again, requesting that you approve it this evening.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Barlow?
Just when we had our legislative meeting, we had one of the concerns was that VDOT appears to be backing away from their review processes and stuff like that. I didn't know if that was something that should be included so the questions can be asked. It's certainly a priority for Louisa County.
Sure.
We are being put in a position to where third-party engineers will have to be hired to either on the county's behalf or the developer's behalf to do what VDOT has typically done in the past. And I didn't know if that was going to be further mentioned or not, but that was one of the things we added to our priority list.
Certainly, if the board would like to see that in there, I'm sure we could craft some language. I've been had some correspondence back and forth with Mr. Goodwin as we're trying to home in on that a little bit more in reference to the Attorney General's opinion. I think that was mentioned and get a better handle on exactly what was said and why. What is taking place is taking place. But if that's the desire of the board, I think maybe this draft went out before that language or before your suggestion had come about. So certainly, if that's your will, we can add some language in about that.
Well, I think it's certainly something that we're going to need some clarification on as to what we're going to be required to do when projects come in and VDOT no longer is going to do what they have typically been doing.
Did we not add that to the county's legislative? It's in the county's.
Yes, sir.
would it be helpful to you, Mr. Blunt, if we added it to what you're asking us to do tonight, or can you run with it through what's in the county's legislative platform?
I can do it either way. I mean, certainly, representing your interest, includes not only what's in the regional program, but what you have included in your local priorities.
All right, are you fine with that?
I would add it to it so
Okay.
that, at least it's
We'll make
written
it-
down somewhere.
We'll make that addition. We can do that when we get a motion here in a minute.
Sure.
We'll provide the same document, same language that we had in the counties.
Yes, and I've seen that language.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody, Mr. Woodward? No? Oh, I thought you
I'd like
did.
to make a motion.
All right, let me see if there's any more discussion. I would like to thank you, Mr. Bryant. You did thank our staff, but for the representation that you and, well, your organization, but specifically that you provide to Louisa County. I mean, you're here year in, year out, and you're at the General Assembly. And one thing you said, I say every meeting to our legislators, if you're going to mandate something, fund it. Please don't mandate anything. So that's, if we could ever get that across, I'm not sure that we could. Mr. Woodward?
I move that we go forward with a resolution to consider the 2025 Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission's legislative program with the addition of Mr. Barlow's comments about VDOT.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you again, Mr. Blunt.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right. Now we'll move on to recognitions, which we have no recognitions this evening. We'll move on to public comment. Public comment is an opportunity for the public to address the board on any matter that is not a public hearing tonight. We do have two public hearings tonight. One of them deals with a budget supplement to turf fields at the middle school. So if you're here to speak on that, wait till the public hearing. The other public hearing is a rezoning amendment. So if you're here to speak on that, wait till that. Do we have any cards for public hearing?
So many.
All right, I have one. Mr. Sasser. I'll give you 3 minutes when you come up. Give your name and your voting district. I'll give you a 15-second warning. Yes, sir.
Mitchell Sasser, Louisa District. I just wanted to use this opportunity to inform you all that the Central Virginian, as of this week, will have moved our office from the Air Park to 304 West Main Street. That is directly across from Frosty's Rail Stop. This will be a great opportunity for us to, for increased foot traffic, for Louisa community members to share information and ideas that they would like to see featured in their local newspaper. Selfishly, I look forward to being able to ride my bike to work every day. I would be remiss to not use this opportunity to continue to advocate for the county to return their public notice requirements to their local newspaper. I very much understand the reason why back in August of 2023, the decision was made to switch public notices to the Richmond Times-Dispatch due to a change in the window of time for a legal requirement. I also agree with resident John Farmer, who wrote a letter to the editor in late August of 2023 that said this switch may satisfy the letter of the law, but not the intent of the law, which would be to inform the citizens of Louisa County and encourage active participation in county affairs. With the change in legislation as of this July, the county is able to return their public notices to their local newspaper of record. I appreciate County Administrator Christian Goodwin for meetings with our publisher Kathy Gehring and other Lakeway publisher representatives about ways this return could be feasible. Supervisor Jones mentioned last year that, quote, I know in the western end of my district, many people don't get the Richmond Times-Dispatch, and I know there are many older folks who still follow the Central Virginian. While I agree with the sentiment, it's simply not up for debate. There are 120 subscribers to the Richmond Times-Dispatch who live in Louisa, as opposed to the thousands of people who read our paper each week. I look forward to future discussions about how the county can return to their local paper. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next card, and I can't quite make out your last name, but I think it says Sue Stewart.
Frankel-Strike.
Oh, sorry.
It's close.
I wasn't even close.
Not even
I
close.
apologize.
It's so far away.
Hi, how are you doing? My name's Sue. I live in the Patrick Henry II district. And I know you all have a lot to consider tonight, so I'll be quick. I just wanted to put out a reminder that as the weather is getting cold, there are citizens of our county who are homeless. And you may not see them because it's possible that someone paid for them to stay at Loyalty Inn for a couple of nights, like a young veteran who I met 2 weeks ago, whose girlfriend's baby has a kidney issues, or maybe they're living in an unheated camper, like another family, that young family I heard about last week. Or maybe they're sleeping or squeezing into a small trailer with several other families, as some friends of mine are currently doing. So at any rate, I know you're thinking about putting money into fields, and I also think that's important, as someone may have seen me running around in the county. But as you're thinking about those turf fields, just remember that some kids are not playing football, not because they don't have a turf field, but because they don't have anywhere warm to sleep at night. So I think there are other folks that are going to talk about more specifics around that, but I just wanted to put out that reminder. It's getting cold, and Louisa County does not have a shelter, even a winter shelter, overnight shelter for the cold nights of winter. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next is Amy Ware.
Good evening. My name is Amy Ware. I live in the Jackson District. I've come before the board tonight to ask for some help or guidance with an ongoing animal control issue. My mother, who is 87 and has dementia, has been deeply affected for at least 4 years with issues relating to animals trespassing on her property, causing disruptions to her daily enjoyment of life, damage to her property, and harm to our employees. I've probably called animal control hundreds of times over the past 2 years when the animals, dogs, goats, a horse, a donkey, came to my mother's property to eat her plants, eat and damage her bird feeders, damage her lawn. Luckily, most of the damages we've experienced have been small, having to buy pepper spray to protect our employees chased by dogs, new bird feeders when they get destroyed, and other small items. This past summer, my mother was knocked to the ground by the horse when she tried to stop it from destroying her bird feeders. Caregivers have been chased. One had the horse grab and bite her clothing and pull her to the ground. This past Monday, a caregiver was bitten 2 times by the donkey when she tried to get the animals out of the yard. Thankfully, no one's been seriously injured, but as I have told the sheriff and the animal control, do we have to wait till someone gets seriously hurt or killed? The lack of action from animal control in the sheriff's office is appalling to me. I am told over and over by deputies, unless they witness the event, there's nothing they can do. Even with evidence on camera, that this board will not put any penalties in place to make it worth their effort to impound animals or otherwise act, because the animals will just be returned to the owner. Specifically, they say they can't keep property that they know where the owner is, or they'd be breaking the law. All I'm told is go file with the magistrate to get the existing state law to be enforced. Animal control deputies and other officers tell me their hands are tied about removing animals because the state veterinarian will not act till the animals are near death, or they tell me the board and the county administration won't put any consequences into existing animal control ordinances so they cannot do their jobs. Then the board and county administration tell me animal control officers already have the tools they need to do their jobs, and I'm not being given accurate information. I am now forced to build a fence on my mother's property to keep these animals out because the disruption to all our lives is intolerable. My mother owns no animals, but she's now
15
forced
seconds, ma'am.
to enjoy her home because with dementia, you need calm. I'm frustrated. I can't get a solution. Everybody's blaming everyone else. I come before you begging for help, but right now my only solution is to go to the magistrate myself to try to get someone to enforce the law because I can't wait for somebody to die.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question.
Ms. Brother.
We're running into this situation again, and I've been told that animal control is saying that they can't do anything because of the ordinance that we have in place. We put an emergency ordinance in place, and then we rescinded that because that, we were told, takes care of the situation, and it just wasn't being enforced. So I would like to see we take another look at this thing and find out if indeed we need to change our ordinances, or if that what we have is just simply not being enforced. And that was what came out of, that's the reason we rescinded the emergency ordinance before.
Mr. Goodwin, you and I can look into that together with Sheriff's
Yes,
Office.
sir.
That's
I'm
fine.
taking notes. Thank you.
Will y'all follow up with Ms. Ware, please?
And Ms. Ware, yeah, I'm sorry, we'll follow up with you. I have your contact information.
You don't. We'll get her phone number.
I don't. Mr. Kuhn will get your contact information. We'll follow up with you, ma'am.
I have her
I was
contact
gonna say,
information.
Do you?
I had
Okay.
spoke to Ms.
Okay,
this
we have it.
afternoon, and I
We'll,
think she does have, and she did, offer me some advice, but
good. We'll take that into consideration on our next job review.
thank you,
Thank you, ma'am. We'll follow up with you.
thank you.
Next speaker is Dwayne Sargent. Well, I like your first name anyway. You spell it right. LKA Dwayne. No wonder I couldn't get that email address. So,
Okay. I'm Dwayne Sargent. I live in the Mineral District, so you're my man. I'm here to talk about the issue of homelessness in Louisa. There are other people probably going to talk about it. A group of us have started to try to organize to do something about the immediate emergency need of shelter at nighttime in the cold. So what I'm going to encourage the board to do is to try to work with the nonprofits and people in the community that want to work on this and start to put some efforts toward it. It's a terrible situation. These people are suffering much. They don't have the blessings that we have, and it's time for government to take a stand and handle it. I call them the invisible people because they're hidden all over the place behind the Walmart and Zions and various buildings behind the Hardys. And so it's a situation where I think it's easy for people to ignore or to be ignorant about because they're not aware of it. So I would just ask you to start looking in this and working with the people in our community who are willing to do the work. We have a coalition of churches who are willing to help put people up a week at a time in their church building and rotate and get it done, because you can't sleep in your car in the wintertime when it's that cold. So thank you for listening to my concerns.
thank you, sir. Next speaker is Lynn Kogel.
Continue a trend here. I'm Lynn Kogel. I'm in the Mineral District, so I guess you're my man, too.
Yeah, I know.
What can we say?
Don't tell Jim.
Yeah, really. But anyway, I thank you all, Mr. Chairman, supervisors, and staff. I appreciate you listening to us, and I have a little bit of a continuation on the homelessness topic. Wanted to give you an update, sort of a status report from the Louisa Homeless Coalition, or LHC as we're now calling ourselves. And just to sort of mention from previous meetings, you may remember that we had been seeing an increase in housing requests from homeless. From homeless and unhoused persons, and that was what started our whole process about a year and a half ago. And we did conduct a point-in-time study back in January of this year and identified homeless people. The schools have told us about the homeless numbers within the schools, and we developed a needs assessment. So all that has been done prior to now. Our coalition supports, number one, keeping our citizens in their homes, because that's what we want for them. You know, if we can keep them where they are and help them with current rent or mortgage payments, that puts us all ahead of the game. The second thing, as we all know, lack of affordable housing in the county is still an issue, and I think a couple of you have been charged with looking at some options. I do know that there's many new developments that have been proposed in Louisa, and we certainly hope that some of them will be with some affordable units. So as I mentioned, the Louisa Homeless Coalition, it's actually a program now under the Louisa Community Emergency Fund, which is LCEF, all these acronyms. LCEF is an existing nonprofit. That way we've been able to apply for grants, start receiving donations and so on to try to put some kind of a homeless program in place. Our priority right now has been providing temporary housing for folks at Loyalty Inn. Not the best option, but when you have no place to sleep, at least it's a bed and a shower. And we pay for them to stay there for a certain number of nights, up to a week normally. And churches, many churches are doing that to supplement what LSEF is doing. Just to give you an idea of quantity, in 2024 so far, the Emergency Fund has paid nearly $10,000 for housing at the Loyalty Inn, included 11 families and 11 individuals, a total of 35 people that we have served. So it's not a one or two situation. There are a lot of homeless people here, as both Sue and Dwayne alluded to. And I think Louisa can do better. We can provide better options for these folks. So one of our recommendations from the needs assessment was to provide a winter nighttime sheltering program in Louisa County. Dwayne mentioned we have several churches who have already signed on to provide housing for a week, 2 weeks at a time, just for the overnight time frame, so basically 6:30 p.m. to about 6:30 a.m.
Lynn, I'm going to give you 5 minutes since you're speaking on behalf of the emergency.
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
yes, ma'am.
thank you. Thought I was getting close probably,
Yeah.
right, yeah. We are doing a low barrier type of sheltering. We're looking for people who either work or have recently, last residents being in Louisa County. So that will be one of our requests on information on our ad intake form. And we do have a right to deny admittance if folks present safety issues. So again, we call it low barrier. It's not a no barrier shelter. It's not a, anyone can come in, but we still want to have some barriers to the atmosphere there. We've got the churches that are going to provide the overnight shelter. We're still looking for more of those. Food and hygiene items are going to be provided by other churches and volunteer groups. We're working on transportation options, and fundraising efforts, as I mentioned, are underway to raise funds for now a paid overnight coordinator and possibly some of the transportation, because Jaunt can help us in the morning, but the nighttime would be later than what they run. So where we are now, basically, is we've encountered a possible zoning issue. Most churches are not in areas that are zoned for emergency shelters. I thank Chris Kuhn. He's been trying to help us and work with us to find possible solutions to take care of that problem. So we appreciate his help, and anyone else, if you've got questions, comments for us, we appreciate your support, your input, and helping us to serve this underserved population. Stay tuned for more details. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, I don't have any more cards for anyone that would wish to address the board during public comment period. I do have cards for people who wish to address the board during public hearing. Is there anyone else that would wish to address the board during public comment before I close the public comment period? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to information and discussion items. First is an update on the Holly Grove radio tower. Mr. Kuhn.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Just an update, we have submitted the final NEPA study that's required by DOJ for this COPS grant. We're looking at an approval between 2 to 3 weeks from DOJ. After that, we've already done everything we need to through community development, zoning, planning, building. So we should be able to start building about 2 weeks, maybe 3, just getting the contractor mobilized once we have the approval through DOJ. And then we did get an extension, so it was a project that was supposed to be done by December 31st. However, because that NEPA study is very specific for DOJ, I filed an extension, and we've got until June 30 of 25 to get it done, but we should be done well before spring. Stand ready to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anything, Mr. Bowden?
He's done a great job all along, so I hope it continues.
I'm sure it will.
Thank you.
Next is an update on honorary road naming policy. Mr. Kuhn, that's also you.
Yes, so these items are in your agenda packet. We have a draft policy as well as a draft application before you. Stand ready to answer any questions, and without objection, we can put this on a future action item agenda.
Mr. Bowden.
These are gonna, the road names will be on VDOT secondary roads for the most part. Doesn't VDOT have a road naming policy in place?
This would be specific to Louisa County before we would file for the VDOT honorary item.
But does the criteria, does does it follow does it align? Yeah, great word.
This is what we discussed for Louisa County requests, and then we would have to go, I have not pulled the VDOT specific honorary criteria. We can have that prepared for the next agenda item as well, if you'd like.
I think you ought to have them so that you can compare them and make sure that one's not in conflict with the other.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Barlow, I reached out to Scott Thornton a few months ago and discussed it with him. And what he indicated from me was that VDOT does the signs and that they count on the localities to do the vetting process. And they don't get involved in that at all. But they do it goes through some channels within VDOT, so it takes 6 to 8 months, I think, once we would submit the application to them or the request to them to actually, before it actually gets through the process. But he said it's just really just a matter of it taking a lot of time because of the paperwork in the different departments it has to go through. I'm not sure they have any true policy other than they do the signs. The locality doesn't do the signs. The state does the signs. So
Just follow up to Mr. Woodward's comment. I've had a conversation with Mr. Thornton as well. Basically, their process, if my understanding is correct, and Mr. Barlow has a good point, we should check with them. But their process is pretty broad, and it's triggered by the local governing body making a request. And so the vetting process that I think has come out of this work group has been to present something to the board on what the board would consider in the future if we want to make that recommendation. But VDOT's process it didn't sound like much of a process to me either. It was just the local governing body making the ask.
Mr. Chairman.
Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
I was on the committee with Mr. Woodward, or Supervisor Woodward, and Mr. Kuhn. And I have, since this has come out, I've had some people questioning the national, international recognition. And I do question it myself now when I think about, we do have some people that are state level, local level, our law enforcement, other people that I feel if we had to name something, or if we were asked to, this would exempt them from that I think we need to reconsider on that and make it a little bit broader.
Sounds like you need another committee meeting. Who is it, Mr. Woodward or Mr. Jones, correct?
that's right.
Yeah, just,
All right. Well, we'll give that another shot. You guys can work with staff, and something for you to add to your schedule, Mr. Coon.
sorry, Mr. Kuhn.
All right. Anything else? Anything else on this? All right. Next, then, thank you, Mr. Coon. Next, then, is committee reports. Do we have committee reports? I've got a couple, but if anybody else has any.
I don't have really a committee report, but just a comment. I attended yesterday, the Historical Society had a annual meeting, and it was held at the Rosenwald School at Shady Grove, excuse me. And they have completed the restoration of that building. It looks great. The community did it without requesting funding from the county. They took it upon themselves. They did a great job, and it shows you what a community can do. And I applaud the Historical Society for coming down in the lower end of the county and having a nice meeting. It went over very well.
Good, good. Anybody else under committee reports? I do want to appoint a work group of 2 people to work with staff on road bonds where we've had private roads that have been bonded. I'd like to appoint Mr. Barlow and Mr. Williams to work with staff in that regard, unless anybody has any objections to that. Also, the Solar Committee will meet within the next 3 weeks to discuss, based on recent changes and possible changes to state legislation, to look at siting agreement minimums per megawatt, what that charge should be, if there should be a charge to be. I have some thoughts on that, and I'm sure Mr. Barnes will have some thoughts on that. But we'll have a meeting and report back to the board with some possible suggestions to change in our solar ordinance before our December meeting. Anybody else have any comments? All right, we'll move on to board appointments. I don't believe we have any board appointments. Mr. County Administrator report. Mr. County Administrator.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, just a few items to bring to your attention. Please make sure that you have our Christmas tree lighting and Christmas parade on your calendar. That's getting to be a really big event every year, and I think it'll be on December the 6th for the tree lighting, and the parade will follow that Saturday the 7th, I believe. I heard that Mr. Smith might be looking for an extra judge or two for the parade. So if you are interested in serving in that capacity, please let me know, and we can get you set up for that. And I think I've also heard some things about carriage rides in town as well. So it just continues to be a growing and very successful event. There's a report in my documents from the Virginia Telecommunications on their grant progress as a region, not just the county, so you can keep track of that progress. Do want to let you know that we're carefully watching the weather. As you all know, it's been dry for the past many days, several weeks. We've had some folks ask about burn bans. The fire chief and emergency personnel across the state are watching that information carefully, but do please encourage your constituents to exercise extreme caution right now while things are very dry. And that concludes my prepared remarks. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Goodwin? Thank you, Mr. Goodwin. We'll move on to public hearings. The first is a resolution authorizing a budget supplement to the middle school turf fields capital project. Mr. Kuhn.
Yes, sir. Scott, can you, the PowerPoint?
Not that one.
No, not that one. That one. Just thinking about it. Chairman, members of the Board of Supervisors, we're here to talk about the middle school turf fields. So what we've done is we looked at the Louisa County Parks and Rec survey. Over 1,000 residents shared their priorities for park enhancements, and the top 4 priorities were the indoor pool, the program space, sports complex, and then the skate park. We wanted to look at the Parks and Rec funding that was available, and what we have is long-term capital funds, the indoor swimming pool funds, the Parks and Rec long-term capital. We do have Louisa County Public Schools Long-Term Capital Fund if we partner with them, and then the Parks Maintenance and Enhancement Funds. We also looked at the projected costs of what these 4 categories would be. The indoor pool with program space, if you combine the 2, which a lot of localities do, we're looking between 10 and 25 million. The sports complex, 6.33 million is the overall cost. However, today we're asking for a supplemental 2.77, and the skate park is between $50,000 and $125,000. So the proposed funding that's before you today is we'll use the Parks and Rec Long-Term Capital Fund, the Louisa County Long-Term Capital Fund, $500,000 from that, the Park and Maintenance Enhancement Fund, as well as $819,515 from the General Long-Term Capital Fund. Why prioritize the turf fields? This is something that would have immediate impact. There's high community need as well as revenue potential, and it does limit maintenance needs versus other natural grass fields. There is a plan to request the skate park in the FY26 CIP, and the indoor pool and programming space is a large project. There's going to take substantial funding, as well as we will have to acquire land because we do not have any place suitable right now. So studies and whatnot that go in with identifying that property. When we look at why invest in turf fields, the extended playability is a very large portion of that. So turf fields do get to be used up to 300 hours or 3,000 hours, I'm sorry, where a natural grass field is between 650 and 800 hours. Right now, we really have 2 fields that we utilize for our soccer and football, and that is something that just between the 2 of them, we exceed 800 hours in the fall alone. One of the other benefits of turf fields is that the reduced water and water use as maintenance as well. The National Parks and Recreation Association states that turf fields over grass fields, you actually save up to $25,000 a year in maintenance. And then the other benefit is that weather resiliency for turf, you can practice in a lot more different situations. And then we also have, with the Virginia Tourism Corporation, increased revenue opportunities, which supports year-round use, tournaments, leagues, clinics, and it can help drive local spending. What specifically that local spending would look like is based on the VTC numbers. If we were to have 2 field tournaments that were specifically regional, so this would be Central Virginia, maybe Piedmont region, that you could see between 150 and 337,000 in indirect spending or total spending, and then clinics would add a portion, so you would look at up to almost $500,000 a year in spending in the local community. And as staff, we would want to focus on trying to do this in the shoulder months to help bolster the local community on the off-peak season. When we look at what the full request is a supplemental cost of $2.77 million, and this does include lights, scoreboards for both fields, shock pads to help alleviate some of the safety issues, as well as paved parking for optimal usability. Then we've got a price breakdown here that shows Phase 1, the earthwork, parking area, and bleachers has already been approved by the Board of Supervisors, but all of the other items, the AstroTurf, Musco lights, and Nevco scoreboards, as well as the new Dominion service, either have a cooperative contract or be a sole source, because Dominion's the only one that can provide that new electric service. And then the construction administration is also cooperative contract. And I'll stand ready to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Kuhn?
Mr. Kuhn?
Yes, sir.
I think you had answered this to me a couple of weeks ago. What is the life expectancy of the turf on the field? How long would it be expected before it needed to be replaced?
10 to 15 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments or questions?
I had some comment or questions, but I think we can go through the public hearing and
Come back
do
then.
that, come back to it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kuhn. All right, so I'll open the public comment period on this public hearing. When I call your name, come to the microphone, state your name and your voting district. You'll have 3 minutes. I'll give you a 15-second warning when you hear the chime go off. I mean, I don't want to cut you off right then and there, but try to wrap it up within 4 or 5 seconds of that so that we make sure that everybody that wants to speak gets an opportunity to speak. First card I have is Jonathan Christian.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Christian. I'm in the Louisa voting district. I am a LASA board member. I'm also the Challenge Commissioner, a new development program that LASA created. And I'm also a parent and a travel coach, so I have a lot of hats within LASA. One of the things I don't know if it's been brought up to your attention, but about 50% of the players that we have at LASA, we have over 300 plus players. About only 50% of them participate one season at a time. We are looking to see how can we transform our program to feed into the high school programs to dramatically change the face of soccer in Louisa County. We encourage collaboration, creativity, and courage in our players, and so we're trying to instill these players with lessons and life skills that you'll use. This is not just a sport to us. We use this as a platform. So I just want you to think about that number. It's how do we expect soccer to grow in our high school program when we have only players that are participating half the time? Not only that, we're going up against other communities where they have year-round facilities, and so our players are at a disadvantage of thousands of hours per season. Just one season at a time, and then they're playing year-round. And then we wonder, well, why can't we make better high school programs? Why can't we be more competitive? Well, we're at a severe disadvantage. So as a USSF licensed soccer coach, I've had the chance to coach and train players in Virginia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and I also did coaching up in Michigan. And as a travel coach this year, we've traveled to lots of wonderful places, and I can tell you that our playing facilities are highly antiquated compared to anywhere else that I've been in my 8 years of coaching. One thing I also didn't know if you were aware of, we had some fill dirt go into some of our fields previously. It's been 1 year and we're still picking up shards of glass out of the fields. Our kids run around in these fields barefoot over at Jewett, over at Trevilian's, and we have volunteers that are continually combing out glass. I mean, that's really hard, because if you think about one of the joys that we have as coaches is we see these kids running around barefoot, playing in the fields, and just with reckless abandon, just enjoying themselves. And so this is not really a decision just only to shape like soccer in itself, because there's a lot of other advantages that were listed. We bring in hundreds of families for our competitive programs, which are growing year over year. We bring in hundreds of families from surrounding communities. And what do those families want to do after they finish the game? Well, they want to hang out. They want to see the area. They want to go get some ice cream. They want to go have dinner, which we have done many times in other communities. So there's a lot at stake. I know there's potential different uses from both football
15
community
seconds.
and from the soccer community, but it really is something that will change not only the story of soccer in Louisa County, but also the community itself. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Diane McCourt.
Hello, my name is Diane McCourt. I'm from Louisa. I'm speaking on behalf of the turf fields. I'm actually new to the community. I moved here in March. I moved here from Northeast Ohio. There, I was actually the president of the soccer program, and I will tell you firsthand, I had to manually repair fields there because of dirt, because of kids playing around. They create this divot right in the center of the field because of rain, and it would have been so nice. They actually are installing a turf field there, and the kids just love it. They're so excited for it, and I just want to say this program, JC, he is one of the reasons why we decided to move here over Goochland, because just the program here seems so great, and I just think it's such a great thing for the community and how much it grows these kids. I have 2 kids that are in the program. I have a 5th grader and a 7th grader, and soccer is their love. They've met friends, and I have nothing but positive things to say about the program and what this turf field could do for increasing the number of people that participate in it. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Next is Steve McCormick.
Hi, my name's Steve McCormick. I believe I'm District 14, if my quick Google search did it right, but Louisa. Anyway, I just wanted to, I'd say that Mr. John Christian there pretty much took all of my points, and which was fantastic, but he did an outstanding job of highlighting the importance of what these fields can do to the community as a whole. And it's been an absolute blessing for my kids, for my family to be a part of LASA with the outstanding coach that we have and just the great community that's there. And it's a win-win all around for the community to move forward with this, to centralize our location, to not have inconvenient drives of up to an hour per drive after a long workday, which inconveniences a lot of working parents, et cetera. To have it centralized in the location that's proposed would be tremendous, and would probably encourage significantly more participation. And with more participation, that only adds to the amazing nucleus of the community that is already in place. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Amy Ware.
Good evening. Different hat. My name is Amy Ware. I'm the Jackson District Representative on the Louisa County Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission, and I'm currently the chairperson of that group. I'm here tonight to express some concern about the funding of this Louisa County synthetic turf field project. At our October meeting, the commission was informed there was a budget overrun, but it was a small amount. On Friday, looking at the board agenda to come talk about animals, I saw the project was up for discussion tonight, and the actual budget overrun was almost $2.8 million. I did contact the other commission members, and a quorum asked me to come and express our concerns to you all tonight. So I'm speaking on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. I understand the ground's already been cleared for this project. It may not be practical not to proceed. However, the Advisory Commission has expressed concern that the funding appears to be coming from existing budget lines that are meant to fund ongoing current projects. As most of the board probably knows, Parks and Recreation has tried very hard to fund projects on a pay-as-you-go process versus borrowing funds beginning with the 1996 Parks and Recreation referendum projects. While this takes longer, it allows us to get things done over time, but this cannot happen without having to save funds annually and let them be carried over from year to year. Some of the funding lines listed in the referendum, listed in the resolution, I used the wrong word, on tonight's agenda seem to include those lines. This is very concerning to our commission because we have spent the last year identifying needs of the community through various presentations at our advisory meetings, talking to citizens, and most recently we conducted a survey of public wishes. Last November, during budget time, the commission identified 3 major capital improvement projects that were basically new: an indoor pool, a multi-use sports complex, including multi-purpose fields, and an indoor gym facility for volleyball, pickleball, basketball, etc., which would also provide space for Parks and Rec programs. And thirdly, a skate park, which was promised to be replaced by the Board of Supervisors when Social Services Department was moved to the Betty Queen Center, and that was taken down. The other area of capital improvement we have been working on is maintenance and enhancement of existing park facilities, all of which were built almost 30 years ago from the 1996 referendum, and to perform required maintenance at the Henson Building, which is also supervised by Parks and Recreation. The facilities in this line would include parking at Louisa Town Park and refurbishment of all the playground equipment, which all of is at least 25 years old. The survey that was done this summer did identify the same 3 new CIP projects that the community most wants: the pool, skate park, multi-use facility. Our concern with the commission is we've been trying to be good stewards of our county tax dollars by saving funds for years, and we finally gotten to the point where we can accomplish some of these projects, and it looks like from the presentation I saw that the overrun is coming from those line items. I hope you'll take into consideration that when you discuss this matter tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And I did, just so if anybody's wondering, I extended your time because you were representing the advisory committee.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Justin House. Did I get that right?
Halsey.
That's
It's close
enough. Next speaker is Justin.
Hi, everybody. I'm Justin Halsey. I'm in the Louisa district. I'm here about the turf fields. So turf fields a huge opportunity for this, for the LASA. The amount of growth that's going to happen out of these fields is tremendous. I first moved here in '97, I think it was. I'm still playing on, my son's playing on the same soccer fields I did. They still run down, still tore up, still same old same. 25 plus years later, we're still doing the same thing. The LASA organization is like East Side, West Side. We all practice either at Trevilian's or Jewett. I'm a coach of a travel team. I got kids on either side of the county. So one Tuesday I'm at Trevilian's, one Thursday I'm at Jewett. That's a hassle. And so we need that centralized location that's going to bring, all of this together for us. Louisa's always been a baseball and football town. Soccer's been overlooked for years and years and years, but it is growing, it is doing big things, and it is going to continue. And again, like JC said, if you want relevance within the high school and you guys want to be known, it's going to have to come from developing these kids and having these centralized facilities that people want to come to and participate in. So, yeah, so it's the #1 sport in the world. Let's make it relevant in Louisa. So that's where I'm at. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Casey Burton. I wanted to make sure I saw the R since I messed his name up, so.
Hi, my name is Casey Burton. I reside in the Mountain Road District. I'm coming tonight to speak in support of the additional funding of both turf fields. I have 3 children, a 9-year-old daughter and twin 7-year-old sons. My daughters cheered for Louisa Elite, and my boys play for the football team for the past couple seasons. My daughter and sons also play during the spring for LASA, and my daughter has to go to Goochland to take gymnastics classes. So basically, we spend more time in the car than we do at home most evenings. We moved here to Louisa in 2022, wanting to be part of a more rural, tight-knit community. It seems like the one event that brings the community together is the Friday night lights of Louisa Lions at the Jungle. I've seen the excitement, the pride the community has in supporting those young student athletes, and I would also hope that the county would support sports involvements for their younger residents. According to the most recent census data, approximately 20% of the population of Louisa County is under the age of 18. The 5 to 14-year-old age group represents 11% of the county's population alone. However, opportunities for these youth to participate in organized sports are limited to certain sports that can be held inside the main community center or at a few of the baseball fields scattered throughout the county. For those interested in football and soccer and being a future Lion one day in those sports, the options are limited. Louisa Elites made the most of the situation, having to beg and borrow just to reserve the softball fields at the middle school or the school gyms to practice when the days get shorter or rain soak the fields. There are no lights on the main practice field behind the middle school, making it dangerous to practice. The only bathroom facilities are porta potties or the woods, where unfortunately my boys both got chiggers a couple times. When the school events happen, practices get canceled, resulting in player safety concerns when kids have to compete in games without the ability to practice. Our kids love playing in the jungle, but when it rains, games have to be canceled. Because of this, our families have had to travel twice as much this season to play games, which is a financial hardship and also a hindrance for many families to participate in today's age. The similar difficulties exist for LASA. My kids practice at Jewett, and those grassy areas put up not only with the daily wear and tear of school recess, but also the weekend soccer games. My kid's cleat got stuck in a dirt divot last spring, and he actually twisted his ankle. I actually wrote to my representative, Mr. Barlow, back in 2022 when I heard the option for a sports complex was up for discussion. In his response, he stated that Louisa County's goal is to remain rural. He also thanked me, stating, "I wish more people were involved with the community they live in." As far as I'm concerned, nothing promotes the rural way of life and involvement in the community better than youth sports. We all know the benefits that sports participation provides for children. Myself and others are standing here today asking you to provide that additional funding to prioritize the health, safety, and emotional well-being of our youth in this county. In addition, the addition of these turf fields will not negatively impact on the ruralness of our county, but rather foster that unique sense of community by allowing our little Lions to grow and develop in their sports and provide them a safe environment right here in the heart of Louisa County. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker is Melissa Young.
Melissa Young, Louisa District. As a parent and supporter of youth athletics, I'm here to advocate for fields that provide safe, accessible, and high-quality playing surfaces. My conviction stems from my family's soccer experience, having brought my kids up in Louisa. They are now sophomores and 7th graders. Due to lack of field space for the volume of athletic programs in Louisa, many of our young athletes are forced to train on uneven, bumpy fields, in gyms, or on tennis courts, spaces that don't meet their needs or foster their potential. Space issues are compounded when the sun begins setting early or wet weather makes fields inaccessible. Current field conditions present safety concerns. As an example, when my son played on the JV soccer team, they often ended up practicing on a patch of grass in the high school parking lot or on a very bumpy, uneven, grassy area behind the middle school due to space constraints with the practice field. Players spend part of their time and energy focused on avoiding risky spots rather than improving their skills. As parents of a child who also plays on an elite club team and plans to play college soccer, we hesitated, knowing one misstep on an uneven surface could lead to a season-ending injury. The kids are frustrated. They're putting in hours, working hard, and when they take the field in a game, it's a different experience than they've had in their training. Installing a turf field would provide a smooth, consistent playing surface, reducing the risk of injuries, and allowing players to focus on the game instead of watching their footing. Being walked out to a patch of grass in the parking lot and told it's your training area is also less than ideal for the self-esteem and mental preparation of our developing athletes. A lit field would be a game changer for practice scheduling. Our county's enthusiasm for football is long established, and a quick visit to any of our elementary or middle schools will confirm interest in soccer is growing rapidly, and with it, the demand for practice space increases. Lit fields would extend playability into the evening, accommodating busy family schedules and allowing teams to fit in practice times that work for everyone. Right now, families are driving out of the county for soccer because our programs and facilities can't keep up with demand. My own family has played in Fluvanna, and one son currently plays in Charlottesville. He has teammates from Louisa. We carpool with other Louisa families and see many others from Louisa on game days. They're all there seeking what our children can't find in Louisa. A lit turf field complex could be a huge contributing step toward programs that allow us to keep families here and our community connected. Let's not forget the broader economic impact of such a facility. A sports complex would attract weekend tournaments and games, drawing people to our area who would eat in our restaurants, stay in our local lodging, explore our community, purchase gas.
15 seconds.
It brings visibility to our area, supports local businesses, and puts us on the map as a sports destination. Investing in these facilities would be an investment in our local economy and our community's future. Invest in a space where our young athletes can thrive, families can stay local, and our community can grow. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. Brianna Sparrow. Hey, nothing wrong with that. You bring your own sharing section.
He's his parents' biggest supporters, man. Gotta love it, though. Hi, I am Brianna Sparrow. I am in the Mineral District. I wrote something, and I'm going off script. And I might cry a little bit as I do it. So, my husband is a deputy here, and I'm going to have to answer to him when I get home tonight because he's probably not going to be thrilled about this story. But he grew up homeless. He is from Bedford County. He lived in hotels and on friends' couches. When he made it to high school, he had a high school football coach that believed in him, bought him food, showed him what football was about. He got a college scholarship to play football. He went on to play for the Bears. Football saved him from homelessness and taught him a better way to live. We met in college, and since then, we have really strived to put into every community that we are in because that is what got him out of the situation he was in. If we look around to our neighboring communities, you will see amazing facilities, whether it's soccer, field hockey, football. All of the neighboring counties have amazing facilities. We moved to this county 3 years ago, and we heavily debated on whether or not we were going to put our kids in Louisa sports because of the lack of facilities. It is really hard to go out there and answer to parents when we don't have lights and we don't have good fields to practice on, and we're fighting for space with other people and other organizations. We play soccer also in the spring, and same thing with them. I mean, we have muddy fields that you can't play on half the time, and our boys are, and girls for that matter, because our cheerleaders are supporting our boys, and if the boys aren't playing, the girls aren't cheering. These fields would bring the community together, and it does foster our youth for a better path into adulthood. It teaches community, it teaches perseverance, it allows you to rub elbows with people that can help you get a leg up in life. If they don't have the opportunity to do that, networking is what makes this world goes around, and if they don't have the opportunity to start building those relationships at a young age and really leaning in on the coaches that support them, That's when things, people get into bad things. And sports is what keeps people out of that. So thank you for your consideration. Totally went off script, but with our friends talking about homelessness earlier, I don't know. It does change lives. Youth sports changes lives.
Thank you. I'm sure that was better.
Well done.
I'm sure that was better than whatever you had written down, because that was pretty
That was
good.
very passionate.
Charlie Elkins. Try to follow that, sir.
Good evening. Charlie Elkins, Patrick Henry District. I'm currently president-elect of Louisa Youth Football League. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today about the pressing need in our community, the construction of 2 new sports fields. As you know, our current facilities are stretched beyond capacity, creating a situation that not only affects our students, but also limits the potential of our youth organizations. From the time school lets out until 8:30 in the evening, our existing fields are buzzing with activity. Our high school and middle school student athletes, along with various youth organizations, including football, soccer, field hockey, and potentially lacrosse one day, are all vying for space to practice and compete. It's a wonderful testament to our community's commitment to youth sports, but it's also an unsustainable situation. During the fall, we faced the added challenge of transitioning to the baseball and softball fields simply to access lighting for evening practices. This overlap creates competition for field space among various teams, t-ball, baseball, softball, and more. This not only complicates scheduling, but it also places a significant burden on our youth sports programs and their families. Investing in 2 new sports fields will have the far-reaching benefits of our community. First and foremost, it will provide much needed space for our young athletes to train and compete. This will not only enhance their athletic experience, but also foster teamwork, discipline, and community spirit. Moreover, new fields will allow us to host more events, attracting visitors from outside of our county. This influx of visitors means increased revenue opportunities for local businesses, our county as a whole. By investing into our community sports infrastructure, we're not just investing in our youth, we're investing in our economic growth of Louisa County. Additionally, with the construction of these fields, we hope to alleviate the financial strain on our youth organizations who currently pay for practice spaces. Many of our young athletes, and actually I think Louisa football, I think it's 99.8% of our kids are Louisa County residents. And their families are taxpayers who deserve access to adequate facilities. In closing, I urge you to consider the tremendous benefits that 2 new sports fields would bring to our community. This is an investment in our youth, our community spirit, and our county's future. Let's work together to provide these facilities for our young athletes that they need and deserve. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Casey Burton. I already called you, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
So you did it online and you filled out a card?
I thought I filled out the wrong form.
Okay. And I went out of my way to pronounce your name properly, I just point that out. So, Ryan Underwood, I saw Mr. Underwood come in.
Try not to go off script. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Ryan Underwood. I've been coaching soccer since around 2015 when my firstborn turned 5. We've been here since with LASA, which several people have spoken about, the Louisa Area Soccer Association. Been here since 2019 with them. I'm currently the treasurer and a member of the board of directors. LASA has been providing soccer to Louisa since 1996. We've got 500 unique kids per season, including the referees, which I don't know that we've talked about the referees yet. These are kids, and there's some in the audience here, kids that are actually refereeing the games, teaching them how to be in command of a sport and in command of other players. So it's a good leadership building opportunity. We actually pay those kids as well. We spend about $10,000 a year on items within the county, including porta potties, which I would love to see replaced with actual flushing toilets. I didn't know if I saw that on the list there. We even throw down bags of grass seed occasionally. We spend $10,000 on paint. It takes a lot to paint a field, and we don't have to paint turf fields, which would be really nice. So We travel, as JC mentioned, all over the state. Our travel and challenge teams travel. In the entirety of our state, there are not fields worse than ours, and there are not even fields that parallel ours in terms of quality. They are dangerous. Turf fields are the safer alternative to what we have. And I had written this a few weeks ago when this was up for a vote last time, and so I had mentioned that we had a lot of rain. You guys remember all the rain we had. We couldn't practice. For weeks we couldn't practice, and we were fortunate that we didn't get rained out like they did in Florida, but we missed, of all the thousands of hours that we don't get because we don't have lights, now we can't play because there's no safe place to play. The fields are destroyed. There's holes, there's puddles. You can't see them in the dark. You run right into the puddle and the kids splat. It's gross, it's unsafe, and it's not fair. We've had coaches, actually here, buy lights to put in the fields to run on a generator just to get an extra 15 minutes of playtime. We're wasting money on things that the county can provide, and we can start spending it on things that we want. Bringing tourists in here to go hang out at the lake on their way back to Spotsylvania, stopping at Zion's Crossroads on their way back to Charlottesville, instead of just us leaving and going somewhere else to eat dinner when we play a travel tournament somewhere else. So please approve this as, well, you can do better than what's there. But if you approve what's up there today, we support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. All right, I do not have any more cards for anyone that would wish to address the board during public hearing. I see Mr. Underwood pointing at someone, but I need you to raise your hand if you want to come up here and speak. All right. You first, and sir, you would be next. Some of that leadership skill he was talking about, he talked you right into coming up here.
My name is George Soriano. I'm the president of LASA. I'm also one of the coaches for the Louisa high school team. I've been in Louisa since 2002. I've been involved in the soccer program since 2006. And the one thing, like everybody has said before, it's the turf fields are something that it's a dream. It's a dream for everyone. It's something that everyone wants. Everyone, I think the community needs. It was, I remember when we put the pool out there near the Betty Queen, again, that was something that was needed also. But there's a lot of, those turf fields will do a lot for the community. And for all the organizations, all the sporting organizations, it will definitely help and with the kids and the times that we can practice. I'm not speaking just for soccer. I'm speaking for like all the sports. I know field hockey. I've had parents that their children play field hockey, and they are pretty much. They don't even have a space to practice. So when they go to play against other teams, it's like that's the first time they're playing on a field. That's the first time they're playing on a game. That's the first time they play on, and it's not beneficial for them. It's not beneficial for a lot of the teams that have to practice in not a good space. And those turf fields will give everybody a good space to practice on. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
I have a question for you,
Yes.
because during public hearing, the board can actually talk to speakers. Let me stop your time. So you said you're the president of
LASA.
So how many athletes a year participate?
About 500, more than 500.
In
LASA,
just your
yes.
okay.
Just in LASA, yeah.
I thought I heard somebody say that earlier, but
yes, about 500 year round, yeah.
Okay.
You play 2 seasons in spring.
2 seasons, yes, 2 seasons, yep, 2 seasons.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Robert Regan. I'm in the Mineral District. I think most of the people summarized it pretty well with the need for the turf fields. My family moved down here permanently about 2 years ago to try to get the small town, rural America, and Louisa and Mineral is a great place to live. The one thing that we just don't have are these sports fields. I'm coach of the 11U team, and half of them are here tonight because we can't practice because it's dark and we don't have lights. So we're going to play in a playoff game this weekend, and the other team's going to practice, and we're not going to practice. So, it's not a luxury to have turf fields. It's a necessity if you're going to run programs and compete against other places that have these things. So, and they'll sustain themselves. The only thing we can't do is we've got place. We can fundraise for equipment. We can fundraise for lights. We can fundraise for all kinds of things. But the one thing that we can't do is get the fields themselves approved. Once they're approved and built, I think we can maintain them cost-free, maybe even make money off of these things to help fund other things in the county, like, the soccer teams and football teams and lacrosse teams that can host tournaments here. We have 10 games this season. I think we've had 3 home games because we've had to give away 2 home games. So that's giving up revenue opportunities for us to host concession stands and other things of that nature to help maintain our program. So it's a real hindrance, and not so much a luxury. To be able to compete with other places, we need this stuff. Right now for lacrosse, I'm driving to Richmond. I can do that, that's fine, but it's an opportunity lost for the community here to be able to host this stuff. And I think somebody else said it. One of my favorite things about this place is Friday nights. And I think if you came to the jungle during Saturday, you would see the same type of environment that you see on Friday nights with these kids bring out there. And they're just going to dominate all the way through their high school level and give them a really good opportunity in life if we can help provide these fields for them. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, again, I don't have any cards left, but is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am. So when you come up, make sure you pull the microphone down so that it's close to you so we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Tori Underwood, and I have, wait, what was I going to say? And I'm from Mineral, and I'm here because my brothers were too scared to come, and I have some reasons why we should have turf fields. One is we can practice when it has rained out, and and because it is safe because there's a flat field. It's flatter and it's safer to play on. And we also need lights so we can see at the time of year because it's dark out. And thanks.
So before you go, how old are you?
10.
10. Where do you go to school?
Thomas Jefferson Elementary School.
Thomas Jefferson. Well, I bet all of your people that are here with you and everybody at Thomas Jefferson is going to be really proud of you when they see this because you did an outstanding job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to try to follow that? Did you already speak?
I did.
I can't let you speak again. I'm sorry. All right. Anybody else for public comment during this public hearing? All right. If not, I'm going to I'll give you one more chance because I see people pointing to people back there. But okay. I'm going to close the public comment, bring this back to the board. Did you have anything else, Mr. Coon? I do have one question for you before we move on. We'll pull the... Scott, can you pull that back up? I can't see it. So just for my clarification, we've heard about soccer, we've heard about field hockey, and also football. So this is at least 3 different sports that would be able to be played on this. Is that correct?
Correct. Based on the quote we've got, the markings would be for soccer and football. However, you can get supplemental markings. They're temporary, though, that we could get for other sports as well.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
what you're gonna do is you have what you call tick marks. And tick marks allow you to do like lacrosse. They got a paint now that's not a permanent paint. So you paint it on, it'll last the entire season. Then you got a machine that takes it off, so you don't have so many busy lines on the field. So what they do for sports like lacrosse, they'll put what you call tick marks, where whoever lines it can connect. So it won't be visible until time to play it that time of year. But it'll be able to accommodate field hockey, football, lacrosse, and soccer.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Coon.
Is that a rendering of what the fields are supposed to look like? Once
Yes,
you're
sir.
building?
To include the retaining wall as well as the bleachers. And then the only thing you can't see is this very similar bleacher setup on the field to the right. And then this would, where it'd be located, there would be a new drive aisle right before you got to the tennis courts next to the old metal gym. And then it'd be behind the metal gym in the baseball field. Is where the
tennis courts?
They're already
Tennis
there.
courts right next to the metal
They're
gym.
there.
Somebody said earlier
thought they were
that,
pickleball courts.
that the, that the grading, the land clearing had already been done. Is that correct?
The board has approved the contract for that.
No, I know that.
But we have, no, we
It
have
has
not
not. No,
started
I didn't
that.
think so. I just heard somebody say that earlier, and I just wanted to clarify that I didn't think that had been done. The board has approved a contract for that, and that contract has been executed. We're just waiting for the contractor to start. Is that right?
Correct. There's a couple items that if we're going to do the scoreboards and lights, the conduit, if he's clearing and going to trench, putting the conduit in at the same time would be beneficial than coming afterwards.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Somebody was talking about chiggers. We're going to make it a sports complex. Are there going to be restrooms or a bathroom or something so we don't, or is it the metal gym?
So as of right now, it would be the metal gym unless we were to have an alternative, which I know we've discussed different alternatives for other items. But looking at like portable restrooms, so the trailer that has multiple restroom facilities.
I'm very familiar with it.
So there are a couple that we've looked at for different purposes, but we haven't.
Okay.
The option would be the metal gym as of right now.
But Ms. Jones, I had a conversation with Mr. Coons that it is me personally, I can't stand Porta Johns. And then, I mean, I'm sorry, this is me
Just
personally.
traditional ones.
Yeah,
they're
I can't
nasty.
stand the traditional one. But we would try to get private monies, or if any contingency money left over, to get the portable ones, like the 3 stalls.
Yeah.
Because you could
Those are
also
nice.
pull it to another location, and it'd be real flexible. So we talked about those.
Yeah, those are nice. Those are nicer.
Part of the conversation with that is it would assist with tourism events as well, because we have several events throughout the year where
Ooh,
we have to
yeah.
rent those. So it'd be something that we would be able to
Something
utilize
that Parks
those
and Rec could
facilities.
maybe own.
So that is an option that we're
I like
looking
that.
at, but that's not in the proposal today.
Yeah, we'll keep on track here. All right, anybody else?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. McCotter.
Mr. Kuhn, I have a question. The acreage for this project, how much is available in that site for this project?
So originally, we were planning on a sports complex that would have 5 turf fields. However, with the DEQ requirement, which is part of the reason why the significant increase for Phase 1 occurred, as you can see the retaining walls and everything, we may be able to get 2 more, but we would have to do the engineering and design and get the DEQ approval for 2 more. What it would end up looking like is we would have 1 more potentially turf field to the right of this field, and then there'd be 1 just south of that. But like I said, that would be, we have room for expansion as long as we could get the DEQ approval.
Follow-up question. The 2.77 million plus that is in this resolution that we're considering this evening, does that include everything that would be used to make these things turnkey? Or would there be more potential costs to have these things ready for game day?
So they would be ready for practice and game day. The things that we would not have included in here would be the extras, if you want to call it that. So this does not include a concession stand. I know Supervisor Barnes has looked at options for that. And this also would not include the bathroom facilities. But as we showed, as of right now, the metal gym is located there. But that is a potential item that we would have to address in the future, especially if we were to try and add 2 more additional fields.
Thank you, Mr. Coon.
So, Mr. McCotter, I've already, this is just one example of a concession stand, but I already had a conversation with Mr. Bo Bundrick, our vocation director, that if I can get the donated materials to get our high school class, CTE class, to build concession stand. And he said we could do that. He said we could do that. So we've had that conversation to get them to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm going to jump from, I think sometimes your wants and your dreams become needs, and I do think in our community that we have underfunded our Parks and Rec. And I do feel that it is a time that we shift our focus to Parks and Recreation and make those wants into needs in order to support our youth and even our older adults in our community as we grow. With that said, I am sensitive to what you were saying about where the funding is coming from for future projects with Parks and Rec, and taking away from possible future funding that you all, avenues you had. So I'm hoping we can find a balance, because I really think that these fields have become more of a need in our community rather than just a wish list.
Yes, ma'am. So just to hit on that topic quickly, the Park Maintenance and Enhancement Fund has not been utilized in 2 years. There's been no request for that. And some of the items that were previously discussed would be from general services, building maintenance. So that wouldn't come from this fund anyway. And we have recently made improvements to the parks that should get us another couple years out of them. But we would probably have to have a conversation.
And the Parks and Recreation Long-Term Capital Fund, was that earmarked for anything, or?
That was funded last year for essentially long-term capital projects in Parks and Recreation.
Okay. Okay.
You know, along the lines of funding, did you have something? Because I don't want to.
Go ahead.
Okay. Along the lines of funding, so granted, we have bond funded part of this,
Yes,
but
sir.
on this excess amount. So we're looking at long-term capital funding from Parks and Recreation. We're looking at long-term capital funding from the schools. We're looking at a reduced amount from our general county long-term funding because of the $457,000 from Parks and Rec Maintenance Fund.
Correct.
But this capital funding money, we budget that money every year. We just don't always allocate it. So this is actually money that has been budgeted. I'm not really asking you to answer this. I'm saying this out loud. This is money that we have, as a board, have budgeted in the budget that we passed in May. Some years we roll some of it over. Some years we don't. Some years we have to use part of it. But I would just point out that this is, in my mind, this is why we budget long-term capital funding if we have a project that we need to pull from it. So anyway, I would point that out. The one change that, from what we've talked about in the past, is moving the $457,000 from the Maintenance and Enhancement Fund to reduce the amount that's coming out of the county's long-term capital funding.
Correct.
Mr. Barlow, do you have something?
Along those same lines, we've got Louisa County Public Schools long-term capital, $500,000. That, we're getting ready to go into the budget cycle all over again with the CTE building expansion and that kind of stuff. And what concerns me, even though they have the ability to turn that back this year, that money, I'm afraid, will be needed when we start down the road of the CTE program and that kind of thing. So it concerns me that the schools are able to turn back 500,000, when I'm pretty sure we're gonna end up needing it anyway. But I had some other things written down here, and I might as well go ahead with them. I've read through this thing several times, and looking at the survey, we got 1,000 residents that provided these numbers for what they would like to see, 89% support for the indoor pool. And when I first read it, and 74% for the programming space, 62% for the complex and sport turf fields, I was thinking that's the percentage of the county. This is for 1,000
surveys,
approximately people
Correct.
that are associated with Parks and Rec and would like to see these things. We have 42,000, over 42,000 people in the county right now. So that's, you have 2.4% that are in agreement with these enhancements and stuff. And then you've got 97.6% of the county
that's in response.
that may very well not agree with any of this. But here's the problem I have with it. To me, we've just gone through reassessments, and I don't know about the rest of y'all, my phone is continuously rung about over-assessments, the taxes people are paying. And to me, I keep telling, well, the county has core functions that we're supposed to support, and that being school number one, sheriff's department, fire, and EMS. They're the core functions. This, although it would be great and everybody wants it, it to me falls under a luxury or want category. And when we first started talking about this, my idea was that we do one AstroTurf field and see what it will actually end up costing from the initial installation, maintenance, and replacement. When it actually turns out to be, before we even get started, we are almost $3 million additional, and we haven't even done anything yet. So now the cost has gone from 3.7 million to add another 277. You're over $6 million. You know, I'm trying to be conservative and listen to the voice of my constituents, and I'm having a real hard time supporting this. Right now, we are obligated in this county for $141 million. That's what we owe. And I think we've worked really hard to get Amazon and a few other things coming into this county that are going to provide us, hopefully, with some revenues that we can start doing these things. But I'm not really inclined to start spending that money before we get any signs of whether we're going to actually get it or not. So right now, I think they're great things, but I don't think the majority of our voters in the county would be in support of it, spending this kind of money when we haven't even begun to put a shovel in the ground, and the price of it is virtually doubled. So as much as I'd like to be able to support this, and the conservative side of me says we're going to have to wait until we get some of these monies coming in so we can afford these things. Right now, I still see it as a want and not a necessity.
Mr. Woodward.
Since we're going to, I guess, say what we think right now, I'll add my 2 cents. I agree 100% with Mrs. Jones, Supervisor Jones. We are way behind on ball fields and other type of facilities for recreation in this county. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I just want people to understand. I was on Parks and Rec Planning Commission. I was on Parks and Rec Advisory Commission for 8 years. 1996, I made the motion for the soccer program to leave Parks and Recreation and become LASA. So I'm with you folks. I had one of my sons participated in youth football and what I guess evolved into what is youth football today. I get it. I've been involved in Little League Baseball in Louisa County since I was old enough to swing a baseball bat. I'm 70 years old. We definitely need these fields. We need more than these fields. And the time's coming when we're going to be able to do more than just these fields. We were given the option as a board 2 months ago. It was when we had the thick packet with the rest area. And that was the meeting it was. And we had an A and a B. A was to go ahead and build the 2 fields. B was to build one and not build the other. There wasn't any C. I'm for going ahead and building both of these fields, putting turf on one and seeding the other. Mr. Kuhn and myself sat down and did some really rough numbers, and that's turned out to be kind of dangerous, I think, maybe in this whole project, to go from a small amount to $6.3 million. And we came up, without knowing what it would cost to seed the second field, somewhere almost $4 million. If that is what was before us tonight, I would be voting in favor of it, because those 2 fields are definitely needed. I cannot support almost a $2.8 million increase over where this originally started. We saw tonight the other projects that people said, of the 1,000 people, what they were looking for there. They are right there. This has taken $2.8 million. I don't have a problem with a part of that money going towards these fields. We've already borrowed $3.3 million to go towards them. $4 million is another $700,000. I can support that. I could support probably twist my arm to go a little bit higher than that, but certainly not 2.7, almost $2.8 million. Pickleball people are going to be coming back in here before long. They want in on this too. So I get it. I love the youth. I love athletics. I love Louisa County. I'm embarrassed with what we have right now for our kids to play on too. So I get it. We need to get it started. I have an idea that it probably will pass tonight, and that'll be okay too. Because either one of the options wind up that our kids have more fields to play on, and that's what we're aiming for. So, Mr. Chairman, that's my say.
Thank you, Mr. Burke.
Mr. Chairman, sometimes being one of the senior members of a board has its plus and its minuses. But I've been on this board for 27 years. And in 27 years, we have not increased our Parks and Rec facilities beyond a doubt, other than the Betty Queen Center. Yeah. But let me tell you something.
And the pool.
I'm talking the pool at the Betty Queen Center. I remember when the James River Water Project was going to cost us $12 million. Because we didn't get it done, we got it started. I think we're up to $50 million.
Pretty good.
More than that. We're more than that. Yeah. It would have cost us $12 million. But we're more than that. Now, I certainly understand, and this board has been a very conservative board, but this board also have been working its butts off to bring in economic development. They're starting to pay. When you look at the Amazons and other things like that starting to pay, those are things moving forward. But I can tell you, I've been down to that field where parents had their lights on their cars. so kids can practice, so kids can play. On my way to my board meeting today, I drove down to the metal gym and I saw 2 field hockey goals in the corner where I know that's where the girls practice at, on the baseball field. Those 2 goals were in the corner. I said, great day. Sometimes you gotta do, not only for our adults, but our youth. And our kids need us right now. And the facility that they're playing on right now is subpar. You got right now, just in the Jefferson district, which our kids play in, you got 4 schools in Charlottesville with turf fields. Fluvanna County got a turf field. Louisa, Orange, and Goochland are the only ones that don't have any turf in the county. You go to north, all the Spotsylvania County schools now have turf. You go to Richmond, every school that they're building now, they add a turf field to it because of the necessity and things that need to be done. I'm certainly going to support this tonight, and I think we would be spending more money waiting. I talked to the athletic director from Fluvanna last week. Their field, the top got replaced. It lasts 13 years. I talked to the guys in Charlottesville. All of them was replaced this year. They got 15 years out of their fields. So not to have, I don't know if you all know, you can check my numbers, but we use about 1.2 million gallons of water on the high school football field in that complex. 1.2 million gallons of water. I'm not talking about lime, not talking about fertilizer, not talking about aerating. I'm just saying that we can do these fields without that. And I'm going to take up the Soccer Association's offer to raise money for other things if this is passed, because I got some other things here on my desk. But anyhow, I'm going to support this, and when the chairman is ready for a motion, I'm ready to make it.
Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did not get a lot of calls from constituents in my district. I had one today, and that was Miss Ware. I spent about 35 minutes on the phone with her. It was an interesting conversation. She's been on my Parks and Rec Advisory Committee for a while. And I have a couple things that I'm going to talk about here tonight. Number one, this is not my favorite project. It hadn't been my favorite project in a long time. But I do agree with core function of government. I've always agreed with that. I am a fiscal conservative, but I believe we're in the middle of some changing times, and that I think this is a want versus a need. It's probably right there in the gray area if we're honest about it. I think that's an honest assessment of where it is. That being the case, we do have $3 million in funding already set aside for this thing. We have borrowed the money. We have done that. That was an intentional move. We didn't borrow the money because we didn't have it. We borrowed the money to keep the cash that we have intact so that we would have cash on hand. We got it borrowed at a pretty reasonable rate. We have not touched the $1.2 million in pool funding. It's still sitting there, so I want to be very clear with that. I don't think that's been enunciated very clearly tonight. We've been saving about $400,000 a year, $400,000 a year. We've started that process back a while back. Are we going to fund that project like that? No, you'll never get to $16 million was the low end of that number at $400,000 a year, because by the time you get there, it'll cost $40 million to build. That's the way the process works. But it's a process we started, and we set aside some money, and we've been working too hard towards that. We have set aside some capital improvement money. I serve on the Finance Committee. I've been serving for a long while on that. We've set aside $10.7 million for long-term capital projects in our little savings account. Here tonight we have $819,514 set to come out of that. I think we have a couple of holes that we need to fix. Number one is I'm going to require that the county and the schools specifically get together a memorandum of understanding. We're building a if it passes tonight, we get an MOU together we're building this on school property, and while I may not be here, and Mr. Straley and his staff may not be here in 5 or 10 years, and we may not have two boards that get along like our two boards get along, I think the MOU is prudent, and we don't want to hear, well, it's sitting on our property, we'll be telling you what we'll be doing with it. So it's a cooperative project. I will tell you the $500,000, we set that money, that turn back money in to enable the schools to do some flexible things. That's been a highly successful project over the past 6 years. It's enabled the school to be able to turn money in, not have to spend it at the end of the year. We've been able to keep the learning loss down. We've kept a bunch of people employed. They've pulled down the schools worked really hard in getting grants, ESSER funding, and things like that. We have people working to deal with learning loss, and I know we're really deviating here because of our forward vision and ability to work together and understand. I went to Mr. Straley and asked him, would he contribute some money out of that fund? Technically, we don't have to do that, but we work in conjunction with them. We work hand in hand with the schools. We have a great working relationship. And he said, no problem. Let's take $500,000 of that money. I was dismayed today when Miss Ware called me. I don't know how else to put it. I'm in the middle of my construction site. I'm trying to work, and I have 6 guys there that are depending on me for some direction. I'm 35 minutes or so on the phone with Miss Ware today with the wonderful conversation. I'm going to reprimand the Louisa County Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee lightly. I don't mean to do it harshly here tonight. We need increased communication from you on what's going on. I think the communication has been non-existent, maybe hasn't been coming back and forth. We have had money sitting in this Parks and Maintenance Enhancement Capital Project for 2 years untouched, unfunded, and just sitting there with nobody ever said a word that, hey, we have thoughts for this money. Not that we wouldn't. We funded $1 million ourselves. We did that. We stuck it in there for projects such as this. So I feel like that is money that the supervisors were trying to, and the finance committee is particularly trying to tuck into places so when something like this comes up, we'd have some funding sources for it. This is a good project that's going to serve our county well for a long time. I'm going to let you make a motion as soon as I finish here. I'll be happy to second it, but I'd like to suggest that we modify a few things here tonight. Just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to suggest that $500,000 comes from the school and the balance of 2.527 come from our long-term capital projects. The Finance Committee will reevaluate the 457 and the 1 million and decide if we want to make some transfers. I'm not crazy about that idea tonight, but I'd be happy to do that. I could also live if you wanted to just leave the 457 and take the million. I could get behind either one of those. So, and the million's probably not a bad idea. We take the million out to long-term parks capital reserves, and we could leave the 457 and we could have discussions about that. I know there's some other things that they want to do with that. I'd like to see some increased communication from our Louisa County Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. I would expect that to be forthcoming in the next 30 to 60 days, hopefully, where we can understand what you're planning, what your plans are, what your priorities are. I don't feel like I know that. Maybe you've done that. Maybe you've had that conversation. Hasn't made it to me. I haven't heard it directly. Spent that 30 minutes on the phone with you. That's where I am. I'm good. I've said all I'm going to say. Mr. Barnes, I'll leave the motion to you.
Mr. Chairman. Well, hold on, Mr. McCotter. Let me just, let's run through these numbers again.
I didn't make a motion.
I know you
Leaving that to him.
All right. Well, we'll run through those numbers.
He's the one who
again.
wanted to make the motion.
Yes, sir, Mr. McCotter.
You know, as a parent, a longtime parent of soccer players in Louisa County.
Use your microphone, sir.
I actually had our kids play in LASA from U6 to junior varsity to varsity on up to travel ball, so I know about the fields. Your concerns are the same concerns I had back in the day. In fact, as a coach, I coached for a number of years, we actually practiced in a horse barn. So we had lights and we didn't have a great field, but we did what we had to do. So I understand exactly where you're coming from. I've been there. 2 kids. Played all throughout the soccers, all the frustration that you could ever have, I've had it. However, I've received ample correspondence from the residents of Cuckoo District, which is my job to represent, and they have given me a detailed view on the budget supplement for these fields. And for the most part, they have told me there are too many other needs and there are too many issues to make this project a priority now. If you look at the survey, it's not even the first priority on the survey that the county conducted of our residents. It's not a great survey. It doesn't indicate a large majority of people in the county what they think, but it is the survey that shows it's not a priority amongst the residents. I think that when we're asking for $2.77 million in addition to $3.55 already budgeted, with no, we this never went to a public, like a referendum. We didn't know exactly what the county wanted. It's the survey as well as what we think. And in my case, I listened to my constituents very carefully. There's been no fundraising. Many of the agencies in this county, granted they're outside agencies, but there are outside agencies that could fundraise for this and participate in it. I think we've talked a little bit about that tonight. There has not been any of that done either. So it does break my heart as a soccer parent. Fond memories, but for those reasons, I cannot support this resolution as presented, and I would make a motion to table it.
I'd second that.
All right, there's a motion been made and seconded to table it. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, Mr. Williams, you want to make a substitute motion?
We should vote on this one, sir.
Okay.
So all those in favor of tabling this resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Nay.
Nay.
Motion fails. All right, Mr. Williams.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we appropriate $3.56830 to include $1.277438 from the long-term capital reserves, $500,000 from the schools, long-term capital reserves, and the $1 million from the Parks and Rec capital reserves, leaving the $457,923.68, and that would be pending communication back from the Louisa County Parks and Rec Advisory Committee.
So, second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded that we approve this resolution, which will appropriate an additional total of $2,777,438 for this turf field project. Is there any further discussion?
Could we have a roll call?
Do you want to have a roll call? Alex?
Mr. Woodward?
No.
Mr. McCotter?
No.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Barlow?
No.
Motion passes 4-3. Next is a resolution to approve or deny rezoning application. Do y'all want to stay for this, or do you want to leave? You probably want to go, don't you?
Tomorrow, no
Hey,
school.
Tony, did you include MOU with that?
What is it?
We're going to get it.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming.
This one, this one. We're not using this one.
Well, them the winners.
If you add that to it, it should be fine.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't.
They the winners.
You want to take a break?
No.
Can you make it?
Yeah, I reckon we'll make it go.
You want, how long is this one going to be?
Yeah.
Is this one going to be long?
It's not gonna take long.
How long is this?
Be quick.
It's long.
Yeah, it's super quick. Yeah.
The room's pretty empty, maybe. Unless Mr. Sasser has something he wants to say.
He's cold. He's put his toboggan on.
That's right.
All right. Next is a resolution to approve or deny rezoning application REZ 2024-04, Swamp Bottom LLC applicant Ronnie Morris owner, Michael Tolley agent, proffer amendment, and this will be presented by Renee Moyer. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Supervisors. I'm Renee Moyer with the County of Louisa. Before you is a request for a proffer amendment to a 2006 rezoning case to remove proffer number 4, which is detailed on packet page 110. The proffer amendment would remove the requirement of the supplemental plantings detailed on the concept plan on the current slide that would have been located behind the proffered 50-foot natural buffer. The reason for the request is the number of residential lots was reduced, which created a larger natural buffer as shown on the current slide. The following slides show what is existing in the summer and the fall. And the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval. I'm here to answer any questions as well as the applicant.
Is this the old ordinance where they had the buffer between the lots and the agricultural land?
It was not. This was actually a proffered buffer.
A proffered buffer.
Yes, sir.
So we proffered a buffer, but now we don't want to build it?
So there is a proffered 50-foot buffer which will remain. This was supplemental plantings that was supposed to go behind.
But it was proffered.
Correct. But
So why was there a change in the proffer? That's my, I'm not.
Swampland.
He
planted
come to
trees
the-
and they
if you
died.
Okay, this is the,
That's why it's called Swamp Bottom.
Right.
okay. All right, I get it.
Okay, swamp bottom.
Yeah, due to the wetland, the wet area behind the existing vegetation.
But it's
the
not that he didn't
trees-
plant the trees, it's that he
planted
planted
them
them and they died.
They died on lot 1.
Yeah.
When I
Hold on. Hold on.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, hold on.
So they, go ahead.
We were just going to say that because of the wet nature of the, on lot 8, the trees would most likely die like they
Okay.
did on the other
I'm
one.
good. I'm now good. We can go back to
And
being quick. I just want to understand.
Just one more question, and I think I already know the answer to this, but based on when this was rezoned and these proffers were offered, because today our code requires planning and maintenance, correct?
No, we have removed that.
We removed the.
This is proffered, though.
The A2 subdivision.
But typically, I'm sorry, you're right.
Would include maintenance.
We would include maintenance in new proffers, is what I'm trying to say.
Right, we
But
would
this
ask.
was done prior to, so that, okay, and I know where this is at. It's in your district, though, isn't it? Yeah, barely.
It's on the correct side.
He wants to be in the mineral district, but he's in the
don't
Louisa
think he
district. So- Okay, I got it.
Just as trees want to be in the middle district. That's the part.
The ones that died were in the mineral district.
Just the dead ones want to be in the middle district.
Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Mauer? All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, so we'll open does the applicant wish to speak?
I think she covered it well.
Good.
All right, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on this public hearing?
Mitch?
All right. We'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Mr. Woodward?
I've got a comment. I was with Renee and Mr. Tolley when we were down there. And it's really thick. And it was something about the lot that this is on, as you could see in that picture, the house, and it's what now is the first lot on the right, is way back off the road because they combine those two front lots.
Combine 10 and 11?
That's right, yeah. So it's a lot of buffer there on its own, and natural buffer. So, and he also said, I asked him about, I said, well, I'm really sorry that, that you got to pay a fee to go through this. And he said, no, I'm happy to pay the fee. So won't be any asking anything about that. So, so I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
Okay, I move
We have
to
a public hearing first.
I already did.
Already had
Closed.
it. Good.
Yep.
Open and closed.
Approve REZ 2024-04 Swamp Bottom LLC to amend proffer number 4 of REZ 10-06 to remove the requirement for a Leyland cypress tree buffer.
Second.
Been properly moved and second, we approve this rezoning application. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Barnes?
So moved.
Moved and second that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.